students, we came in, our very first class, we had econ with Mr. Lazar, and we heard the assertion, there we go, we heard the assertion that money is the greatest motivator of all. A couple classes later, we go to our MGMT class, and we hear that money is not the greatest motivator of all. And then somebody brought that up, and the prof said, well, you know, I'd love to have that discussion with your other prof anytime. And then so, really? Okay. So let's put it together. It took us about a term, a lot of logistics, but finally we're here and we're doing it tonight. And so no introductions, we're just going to get right into it, so there's a lot of content. I'm going to throw to Crumb, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the format, and then we'll get started. All right, guys?
My name is Crumb. Most of you won't recognize me because I don't go here. I go to Osgood, but thank you for inviting me. There's a picture of me up there against a backdrop of meadows and flowers. I don't know how that ended up there, but thank you for having me in your school. So basically, the way this format is going to work, it's something Steve and I decided on, and it combines elements of the Canadian parliamentary debate format and a few elements we came up with just to make it more fun and more engaging. And the way it's going to work is both speakers are going to get 7 minutes to introduce their case. So the proposition speaker will come up and have 7 minutes to lay out his arguments, then he will sit down. The opposition speaker will come up and will also have 7 minutes to introduce his main arguments and respond to what was said. After that is done, the proposition speaker will come up again and be able to deliver a 5-minute address doing damage control to the arguments that were attacked and sort of wrapping up his case. And when that's done, the opposition speaker will come up and deliver his own 5-minute address, wrapping everything up, doing damage control, and closing the round. As a courtesy, we ask the opposition speaker who speaks at the end not to introduce any sort of novel, groundbreaking argument in the final minute, just because the other side won't have a chance to respond. So, pretty simple format. There will be questions afterwards, so please hold off on that. Steve and I expect a very spirited and contentious debate, but we do ask that, in terms of questions and in terms of actual arguments, that we focus on the ideas and do not bring up anything personal. We want to discuss the ideas. We don't want it to look like something out of Toronto City Hall. So, we're here to have fun. The times are as set out. 30 seconds before speech finishes, I will raise a sign saying 30 seconds left. Afterwards, there'll be a slight beep. And afterwards, there'll be a 15-second grace period where I will do this, sort of alerting the speaker to wrap up, hurry up, the next person has to go on. And if they continue talking, you have permission to start clapping so that, we can move on. But other than that, thank you for having me, and I look forward to an interesting round.
Let me just get in there. So one point I want to make clear, the second professor was not Ingo Holzinger, but he was gracious enough to pick up the mantle and argue on this side, so thank you very much.
Because the professor who did make that statement bailed out.
No names, no names.
Let's see that. I just need a minute to set up my timer.
Should have had a small speech device. Let's just throw it. Is this what it is? Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome both speakers, and without further ado, I'd like to call Mr. Professor Fred Lazar to introduce this round of debate and present a motion entitled, "Money is the Greatest Motivator of Human Behavior." Hear, hear.
Okay. Okay, thanks very much. Let me start with a story, a true story. Once upon a time, a long time ago, I was coming back from Boston after meeting with my thesis advisor. And at that time, there were no nonstop direct flights, so I had to fly to New York and connect from there. And on the Boston-New York segment, I happened to be fortunate enough to sit beside a very attractive young woman. And in those days, I actually talked to people beside me in the plane, unlike now. And about 10 minutes before we landed, she suggested why don't I join her. She was going to a party out in Long Island, and I had a very difficult decision to make. I said, well, I had to think. When we landed in New York, I could call my wife and tell her I missed the flight out of LaGuardia. It was the last flight of the day, and I would catch one in the morning, or I would, have to pass on this offer. Now, the question I propose to you is pick whatever gender combination you desire, and I do want you to be honest. How many of you would have chosen to go out to Long Island to the party? Can you raise your hands? Okay, so it's the rest of you that I have to convince. Those of you that raise your hands, you're already on my side. Okay, so there are two key arguments I want to make. One, people are driven by selfishness, self-interest, greed. Two, money is the key driver. It's not the only one, but it's the key driver. Now, there are other things that influence people, that drive people, but it's all in the self-interest. Ego, power, control, sex. They all drive people. Money is the most important. The corollary of this is that everything and everyone has a price. The advice I give my students, never set your price low, because then you look cheap and people overlook you. But everybody has a price. Okay, so money is not the only driver, it's the key driver. Does it have to drive a decision 100% of the time? No, it doesn't. We probably spend more time fantasizing about sex than we do about money, but money is always in the background. Now, having said this, let me turn to some examples to sort of prove my point. Most of you, if not all of you, are MBA students. Why are you here? Obviously, to improve your income opportunities. You're not the only one. Everyone in an MBA program has the same desire. Everyone who goes to law school has the same desire. Medical school, dental school. Why do you go? Because you want to make more money over time. That's the key reason that you're here. Others, we look at migration. The theory is quite clear. The practice, the evidence is quite clear. Why do people move from one part of the world to another? To improve their lifestyles, improve their opportunities, not just for themselves, but for their families. It's money what drives them. When we look at executive compensation, what do we hear? We need to incentivize, to motivate these people. We have to offer them large sums of money. Why do you have to do this? Because you're competing for talent. So the key part here is, unless you throw a lot of money at these people, they're not going to be motivated. They're going to be mediocre. And when you throw a lot of money at them, they're still mediocre, but nevertheless, the argument is you have to incentivize them. Then the whole field of labor economics. Labor economics makes it quite clear. Why do people work? Not because they love work. Work actually is a negative. They have to be bribed to work. They work for the money because money enables them to buy things. It's buying things that gives them satisfaction, not the work. When I make it clear in my class, there are workaholics, but they're workaholics for a reason, and it has nothing to do with their love of work. Then we have Bernie Madoff, chasing Madoff. Well, we blame Madoff as an evil person. Why did he attract people? Because people wanted money for nothing. Geez, generating 9-12% returns per year, regardless of what's happening in the economy, steady returns. I want to be in bed with Madoff. I want that return. There was an interesting story about one major investor that said, yeah, he invested with Madoff. He figured Madoff could not have been making these returns legally, but he didn't care. As long as he was making those returns, he was happy. So if you look at Madoff, I don't blame him. He just took advantage of other people's greed. Then we've got people's fascination with the stock market and real estate. When I was an undergraduate, we would have students running in out of the class quoting the stock market. Oh, this stock price went up, this stock price went up. We still have the same attraction. Now it's just easier to follow it. We also have the same appeal with real estate. And it's not just here in Canada, it's a global phenomenon. We become a casino society. Why do we invest in lottery tickets? Oh, we have these great dreams about winning, and we get this money. That's what drives us. Then you have tax avoidance and tax deferral. Bono. I like most of his music, not all of it. Politics leave a lot to be desired. But where does he live? He lives in a tax haven. He doesn't want to pay taxes in the UK. He doesn't publicize that. But he's like everybody else. He likes to keep his money. Then we get to politics. This is where people truly want something for nothing. Yes, I'd like more services. I want better roads. I want better public transit. But I want someone else to pay for it. Greedy, self-interest. Taxes have become the third rail of politics. Politicians suggest, well, let's raise the tax for this, let's impose this tax or this user fee. That politician is dead in the water. Why? Because people don't want to pay. People want to keep their money. Again, self-interest, greed. Then we look at other things. Quebec dairy farmers. They're protected. You know, they claim we need to make a living. That's why we pay a lot more for cheese and milk. Is there a limit? Is there a saturation point? No, there's not. Because there's always someone who has more. Money's a way of keeping score. So at the end, money drives people because at the end of the day, size matters. Size of your home, the number of homes, your bank account, your wealth, the size of your plane, the size of your yacht, the number of buildings with your name on it. And that ends my presentation for the time being.
Okay, I thank the proposition speaker for his remarks, and now welcome the opposition speaker to deliver a 7-minute address. Hear, hear.
All right. Okay, thank you. And so we had houseflies in our house, and of course they were annoying. We didn't want to have them. And at the same time, I had developed this proficiency of shooting rubber bands very precisely. My mother observed the two and had that brilliant idea to give me 5 pennies for every fly I would kill. And I was that good that out of 5-6 meter distance, I would hit those flies. And it was quite pleasant to not kill the flies, but get the 5 cents. So is money a motivator? Yes, it absolutely is. But that, of course, is not what we're debating tonight. What we're debating tonight is whether money is the greatest motivator of human behavior. And to dispute that proposition, I want to bring forward 3 arguments. First of all, that money may be a motivator, but I don't think it's the greatest. Money may, in fact, motivate undesired behaviors, and thank you, Fred, for giving me lots of examples. Motivate undesired behaviors and demotivate desired ones. And finally, my third point will be that the focus on money as the greatest motivator is a gross simplification of human nature and human behavior, and it actually may have created a self-fulfilling prophecy leading to a nasty, brutish, and inhumane world. Let me give you another story. So, and this is actually something that was on my mind this weekend when I woke up on Sunday, and it happens once in a while. 17 and a half years ago, I was a doctoral student, also a doctoral student, similar story, maybe. Well, there's no woman involved. But what I did in my free time was I played soccer. I was, I still am a big soccer fan. I used to play much more soccer than before my 3 knee surgeries. So 17 and a half years ago, I found myself on a soccer field in Madison, Wisconsin. It was a contested match in the first half, and we had just won a corner kick. So my teammate Doug would bring in this corner kick, and behold, it was coming right at me. So I leaped in the air with my neck intention, and hit that ball from about 15 meters out, and it would go right in the upper corner of the goal. And maybe I'm telling you too much about myself, but I do wake up every once in a while dreaming about that goal, which probably means that it's rather meaningful to me, and I actually consider it a great accomplishment. Did anybody pay me to play soccer? No. Will anyone ever pay me to play soccer? Probably not. Is it one of my great, meaningful accomplishments? I think so. That got me thinking about other accomplishments that I've had in my life, and none of the accomplishments I am proud of have much to do with money. And I would like to ask you, think about the accomplishments that you have had in your life. How many of them were directly motivated by money? How many of the things that you remember were motivated by money? The parents among you, having children, well, makes a whole lot of sense, right? Maybe they pay your pension. I don't think that when you created that child, that was on your mind. Anyway, think about it. So is money a motivator? Yes. Is it the greatest motivator? No. My great accomplishments, whether it's on the soccer field, professionally, personally, not one of them has been motivated by money. Typically, I think it's the great challenges, what we enjoy, what is fun, what challenges us. That is what motivates us. Secondly, not only do we overestimate maybe the efficacy of money, I think money actually has some undesired consequences as a motivator. Let me give you a few examples. Sam Glücksberg from Princeton, for example, did experiments and field studies on the effects of monetary incentives on creativity. You may have heard about the candle problem. Dan Pink made this famous in his book and video TED Talks and all that. What Glücksberg found was that giving people incentives works, is a motivator. It actually improves performance on really simple tasks. As soon as cognition is involved, as soon as creativity is involved, financial incentives in the studies that Glücksberg did actually had a negative effect. Creativity goes down. Why? Because money focuses us. So money, once we, how related to 5150, eh? If we know the problem, if we want to focus, oh, Jesus. Money works. Related material. This also, by the way, worked in India, not just in the United States. Dunham, Gruby, and Castaneda found in 7 studies with more than 2,000 participants that money decreases the commitment and motivation of volunteers. In fact, people volunteer. Why? Because of money? No, but we all volunteer something. Once you start giving volunteers money, their motivation drops. Their intrinsic motivation drops. Thank you.
Okay, I now give the floor to the proposition speaker to deliver a 5-minute rebuttal speech. Here.
Okay, to say that you're motivated by other things, the case of the volunteers, why you volunteer, probably 2 reasons. One, if I feel good, I'm doing something good for society. The other, it looks good on my resume, and they give me a better job. Now, with regards to doing something good for society, we all are interested in doing something good for society. We want to help. Once upon a time, I did care. In fact, several years later, after this plane trip, I guess it was my early 30s, I was probably the second most influential economist outside of the government. I was advising cabinet ministers, working in the Prime Minister's office. And what that experience taught me? I want to get involved. And the reason for this, there was arrogance. Arrogance on my part, arrogance on the part of the people around me. What was the arrogance? We know better. We know what's in everybody's self-interest. We can formulate the policies that will make you better people. That's utter arrogance. That's ego of the highest level. That's what I saw around me. I got caught up in it. I was on a high flying in a plane with these confidential, top secret cabinet documents. It was wonderful opening up the plane. Look how important I am. But that was just pure arrogance. I reached a stage where I said, enough of this. And everyone in that area, in that field, and now whether they work for NGOs and politics, they are all driven by ego. They all believe they're smarter than everybody else. They all believe they know what's best for other people. Some of them do it, again, not just ego, because it's a stepping stone to a better job. So it's nice to say, yes, I'm motivated because I really want to do things for others. But that's the highest level of egotism imaginable. To believe that you know better than everybody else, that you're smarter than everybody else. I'd rather deal with someone who says, all I care about is their money. I don't care about anything else because I know what that person is going to do. I can trust that individual. Whereas this person, oh no, I'm here to help the world. That person is full of crap to begin with. Okay? So, are there other things that motivate us? Do we remember certain things that stand out? I didn't play soccer. I played basketball. I still remember some winning shots. Why did I do it? So I could be a hero. Which ones do I remember? The winning shots. I also remember the occasions I screwed up, because I'm my own biggest critic. But I always wanted to be the hero. You know, I want to stand up. This differentiates me. This makes me better than the other person. This ego is self-interest. Not denying that money, is not always topmost, but it's always there in the background. That's always the case. Now, didn't discuss about how people spend money. That's their prerogative. We have Living Pledge initiative where wealthy people are going to donate their wealth to various charities. This auditorium is a McEwen auditorium. Person donated money, but that's ego. Without money, you don't have your name on buildings. And by the way, one of the people that's signed on to Living Pledge, what was his motto at work? You eat what you kill. And now he's making major donations. So let me sort of conclude by, we had the song there by, was it Dire Straits?
Pink Floyd.
Sorry?
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd, sorry. What was missing was Money Talks by AC/DC, but I'll quote from a song by the Beatles that was originally sung by Barrett Strong and then John Lee Hooker. None of you have heard John Lee Hooker's song. I strongly recommended. Really deep blues. Depresses the hell out of you, but it's great music. And if you want to join in, I'm not going to sing because I was a long time ago. I can't carry a tune, but feel free to join in. I'm sure you recognize this. The best thing in life is free, but you can give it to the birds and bees. I need money. Need money. I need some money. Oh yeah, what I want. Your love give me such a thrill, but your loving don't pay my bills. I need money. Need some money. Oh yeah, that's what I want. Thank you.
Now to wrap up, 5 minutes.
Thank you. I guess we all see what we want to see. We use the metaphors that were given to us, and they illuminate and they distort. So for someone who is self-interested, you will see self-interest, and it will create a self-interested world for you. For someone who maybe wants to join non-profit management, in fact, if there are any members, non-profit management association, I think Fred just called you full of crap. And I think that is simply simplistic. So is money a motivator? Yes, it is. Is it the greatest motivator? No. By focusing only on money, we are creating a world where we only see the self-interest, where that becomes the only motivation. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I 150, what they want to accomplish, half of them were career-oriented, half of them wanted to accomplish something else. Money was the motivator for some of them, was not the motivator for all of them. And one correction, Fred, when I talked about volunteers, it was not the act of volunteering, it was the commitment and the motivation that went downhill in volunteers when they received money for their volunteer work. So they joined organizations, I don't know, because they want to have it on their resumes. They left organizations because they received money. The work was not interesting to them anymore because they had received money. And this was a study with 2,700 participants. It's an interesting phenomenon. So I'm not disputing that money works as a motivator, but I think its efficacy is limited. making him not the greatest motivator. The greatest motivator is what motivates you. And it might be different than what motivates you. I don't think there's universal. I think we're too complex. We're too idiosyncratic to have one motivator that works everywhere. Not even my career has been motivated by money. In fact, I was so surprised when I got offered this contract by the number that was on there. I never expected to make that much. Money was not the motivator. Money is not the motivator why I teach. Money is not the motivator why I do research. It's nice to have, no doubt. And the more we get, the more we want. There's all that. But that's what I mean by the self-fulfilling prophecy. So I leave it up to you whether money is the greatest motivator to you. You have to decide that. I can't. I don't think it is. And I've learned a few new arguments from Fred. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move to the question period of the debate. I hope everybody has a few good questions. We're going to pose them to the debaters, and they'll each have a chance to respond. All right, so who's got questions? Come on, somebody's got a question.
I do have ones for Fred.
Is this on?
How was the party in Long Island?
Oh, I can't respond to that.
All I want to say is I have to wait for my memoirs.
Also, when you have a question, you can choose to direct it to one or the other, but both will have a chance to respond.
Hi, Ingo, I have a question for you. Over here. To your left. Left side over here.
All right, there you go.
So my question to you, I hear your soccer story. I hear that you had different motivations and that you think back to it, you didn't have to earn money for you to accomplish all those accomplishments. So my question to you, I'm going to flip it over. To Fred's point, would you have stopped playing soccer if someone offered you $1,000? $10,000, $1 million. At what point would you have stopped playing soccer if they offered you enough money?
Just to clarify, offered me money to stop soccer or to
Stop.
play? Okay. Would very much depend on my circumstances, right? When I was a grad student, I lived months to months, and if someone had paid me offers me $2,000, $5,000, I don't know what amount would be. At this point, would I take $5,000 or play soccer? I would pay $5,000 if I could play soccer. I would pay $5,000 if my knee was better. I would pay $10,000.
Sure, but the question was, would you stop playing soccer?
I can't answer that question. It depends on circumstances.
It only goes to Fred's point that everyone has a price. Is the question.
Yeah, if you want to see it that way, sure. Does it make money the greatest motivator? I don't think so.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, my response is, obviously, from what he said, he probably would have sold himself too cheaply as a grad student.
Probably.
Okay, so I agree that money can motivate you and volunteerism can motivate you. Playing soccer without getting a paycheck can motivate you as well. And would you say that the underlying cause of all this is that people are more looking for the respect or the power associated with having $1 million in the bank, or when you get to go and playing soccer, that seems like the underlying cause to people's actions. So taken from Aretha Franklin, everyone's looking for some R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Nice. Are you directing that to anybody?
I guess both of you would be able to answer that.
Fred, do you want to go first? No, I mean, remember, the point I made is that you're driven by your own self-interest. And it's just an example of it. What's the self-interest in this case? If you're playing a sport or doing something, you want to be the best at it. When I played any competitive sport, I played for one reason, to win. Anyone can lose. There's no pride in losing. So you play to win. Why? So you can rub it into others. You don't have to be explicit. You don't have to go around and say, I'm the winner, you're the loser. But body language tells you this. So are people looking for respect? Are they looking to intimidate others? Are they looking for people to pat them on the head? Maybe yes, but at the end of the day, what they're looking for is, I'm better than you are. They may not say that explicitly, but that's what they're saying in the back of their minds. They're driven by their own self-interest. Money is a way of keeping score.
Money is a way of keeping score. I very much disagree that winning is the only motivation. I have played on crappy teams where I knew I wouldn't win, and I still had fun going out. I had fun with my teammates. And what made the most fun actually was being challenged and getting better over the season. And at the end of the season, we would have a better team. We would have better spirit. We would have a better team. And that was a motivation in itself, which doesn't actually preclude that I like winning when I'm on the soccer field. So respect is important. I think motivation is so idiosyncratic. What drives you may be something completely different for someone else. I just don't think that there is a one greatest motivator.
Okay, so when I do a time series or a cross-section analysis, if I look back in history or if I look at throughout the world, what I see is the lack of money is the root cause of all evil. I mean, you can see it all around the world. You can see it back in time. So I have a question for you. If you were broke, if you had no money and you owed, let's say, $1 million to debtors, for example, would you still have had the ability to concentrate on playing soccer, for example? I guess what my point is, if you don't have money, you cannot have a society that's happy. If you were to isolate one thing that creates all the good things that come later, it's money. Money precedes peace and prosperity. So I guess what my understanding is that if you can have a prosperous economy, everything falls into place. If you don't have that, nothing does. So I just want to ask you. So if you can pay your bills, if you were not well, if you can pay your bills or your family's bills, you may not have had the inclination to play soccer. So could you comment on that?
Yeah. Give me a really poor country, because I don't want to make assumptions. Bangladesh. Okay. Bangladesh is probably poorer than the U.S. Are people less satisfied, unhappy? Probably not. In fact, there's research that money is not what makes people and people as a nations happy. Bhutan apparently is the most satisfied and happiest nation in the world. It's not the richest. So I think you're making assumptions that then don't hold. Your second question was, or another part of the question was, but I would still be playing soccer if I'm poor. Again, it depends on the circumstances. Why wouldn't I? In fact, there is a homeless World Cup where homeless people all over the world come together and play soccer. I think we base our decisions on our own values. What is important to you? If I'm poor, do I have to work because I need to survive? Is that a main driver? Of course it is. Of course it is. Will I still find time to maybe play soccer or read a book or do something else? I might. I've never been on the street. I've never been in poverty. So it's a question that's hard to answer for me. And still, what we do depends on, I think, on our values. And when values align with our activities, that's when we're most motivated.
If I can just ask some comments. First of all, Bhutan. Is anybody here moving to Bhutan? I don't think there's any great immigration to Bhutan. So the point I want to make here, there's theory, the academic theory, and there's a practice. And as you were pointing out, if you look at history, people move. People leave their countries. They leave their relatives. They leave their friends. They leave behind their culture. Why? to move elsewhere where they have greater opportunities. So you look at migration over the history of the world, and that will trump any theoretical study based on 2,000 observations. Second, the people that created these new metrics for happiness, they're in the group that they know better. They know what's in the best interest of others, so they create these metrics. Again, they're the biggest egotist around. They know what's in society's best interest. In reality, I don't know these individuals, but I suspect all of them have deep psychological problems. I'm not attributing any of that to you.
I don't take it personally.
You're referring to them. You're not,
I don't know. All right, our next one.
I wanted to use the example of history again, but to a counterpoint actually. So my question is to you, Fred. So a point to your point again, I don't think 9/11 happened because those guys couldn't pay their bills. So there are other motivations, and the point that I think Ingo was making is money is a motivator, there's no question, but it is not by far the greatest motivator. Looking back at history, neither of the two world wars were actually economic wars. The first one started for a ridiculous reason. Wars happened, the reasons were different. Now, every man has a price. I don't know if we could have offered someone like Osama bin Laden, how much money would we have paid for him to stop doing what he was doing? On the other hand, people like Bill Gates, not my favorite person by the way, but why would he give away pretty much most of his money to charity and whatever he is investing in? So what could be his motivation?
Again, I'm not commenting on how people spend their money. With regards to sort of the incident of 9/11, I'm not going to get into sort of religious discussions, but I would say, I would label those individuals as individuals that say, we know what's best for society. The biggest egotist. Whether they're driven by money or not, they're driven by self-interest. With the wars, again, driven by self-interest. That was the point I was trying to make. That was my first point. Self-interest, selfishness, ego, pride, control, drive people. Money is among them. Money is the most important, but not the only one. Okay, so that's my first point. And if you're looking at sort of history, we can go through other examples, other wars, the role of religion, religious leaders throughout this time. What drove them? What led to mass destruction? Power, control, money. That's what led to mass destruction. And why? Because they knew better, or they wanted to be in control. It wasn't, well, I think my views are reasonable, others should sort of follow them, and well, let's have a nice discussion over them. It wasn't driven that way. And if you look at ongoing wars today, what are they driven by? Selfishness, greed, power. And money is always in the background. You can't finance a war without money.
Yeah, and I actually would agree with much that Fred has said here, with one addition that I think it's ideology that drives that, which is related to self-interest, no doubt. And I think through ideology you create certain metaphors, certain frames, whatever you want to call them, you see certain things, and I think money as the greatest motivator is an ideology. And you see, if you want to see that, you will see it. For those of you who have taken 5150 and remember Brenda Zimmerman's lecture on metaphors, on complexity and metaphors, where she said that when metaphors are our model, when we take them so seriously that they become reality in our mind, that's when it gets dangerous. That's when it gets an ideology. And I think with money and capitalism and self-interest, we're right there. We don't see the complexities anymore. The great advantage of thinking about money, it simplifies the world. And that has accomplished a lot. There's a lot of good to be had there. But if we take it too seriously, too narrowly, we lose a lot of focus. And one comment, Sandeep, actually Bill Gates, I think, is one example. A more interesting one to me is Steve Jobs. Why did he go to the office when he knew he would die next week? Money? Fame? Self-interest? I don't know. I don't know what his self-interest was. Interesting example anyway.
So we'll do two more.
Yeah, this is a question for Fred. You mentioned that you had left your career as an economist, as one of the most respected economists in the country, and here you are a teacher, a professor in front of us. And I was wondering what motivated your move to become a professor and get involved in academia, which is not normally motivated by money.
Well, let me make it clear. I never gave up being an economist, and while I was advising people in Ottawa, I was commuting on a regular basis for my job here at York. So I was moonlighting to supplement my income here, but also because I was driven by this desire to do good for the world, because I knew that I could help. I was the smartest in the room. And I realized after a while I wasn't necessarily the smartest in the room, but neither were the other ones in the room. So why did I switch from there? I never left my job here. I learned the lesson in Ottawa. I saw the frustrations, and what I really ended up being, instead of advising on policy initiatives, and problems are easy to solve. There wasn't any problem that Ottawa ever faced that was not easy to solve. So political will is a different matter. So why did I leave? Because my role ended up being, well, these are all horrible options, but this is the best of the worst. And at that point I said, this is not fun. And then I switched to the evil side and decided to consult to the private sector, which was more lucrative. Same equal number of morons there, but they paid better.
While it was a question directed at Fred, just real brief, because it makes me actually wonder, why are you here? Who paid you? Fred, how much did they pay you? They didn't pay me anything, because of course I'm the opponent, so they didn't have to. But they must have given Fred a lot of money. Why are you doing it? Don't you have anything else to do an hour? Can't you make any money? Rather you donate $5? Interesting.
I just want to make one comment here. See now, why am I here? Well, I could say one hand because I owe it to the students, to society, to give my time. Then I can also say I have confidence that some of you are going to be really successful within a short period of time, and you may need an advisor, a director. And you'll think back, who was that old guy there? Yeah, Lazar. Maybe I'll give him a call. First you'll read your bits to see if I'm still around. And if I'm still around, you'll give me a call. That may be the reason I'm actually here.
That's great. So we see what we want to see, right? I'm here because, oh, this sounds interesting. Maybe I'll learn something.
Last one. Who's got it?
Okay, very interesting, lively debate. I just wanted to sort of paint a little bit of a picture. Biologists have been finding recently that there's a lot less competition in nature than they originally thought. And when you look at a herd of antelope, it's not until, the 51st percent of them all turn their heads towards the water that they actually leave. You would think that it's the powerful antelope sort of driving the rest of them around and forcing them around, but it's actually a very democratic process. And I was thinking about these questions over here. We're trying to put a price on everything, and I wondered if everyone could think of a person who means the most to them. Maybe it's their child, maybe it's their spouse or their mother, and ask you to try to put a price on that relationship. And if there was, no one to share your money with or to enjoy your time with, would we even care about money? So if you were alone in the world with all the money in the world, would it mean anything? And to me, that tells me that there's got to be something greater than money that we want money for, and that's to spend it and enjoy it with friends, and ultimately boils down to love in my mind.
No comment. Actually, one comment. Thanks for the antelope. I'll look that up. It sounds interesting.
Okay, my response, I say, look, everybody has a price. I stick by that. The price is not necessarily money. You think it's a relationship. You have a child, okay? What is it worth to you that I don't kill your child? Okay? I want you to do something. It's not just money. Give me a baseball bat. Give me a family. You'll do what I want. Everybody has a price, and the price is not necessarily money. You look at organized crime, they're really good at this. I've always joked around, especially if you look at the Russian and Colombian cartels, which are really brilliant in how they deal with some of these problems. They probably hired some statistician from MIT or some game theorist to advise them. So when I say everyone has a price, everyone does have a price. Everyone can be made to do certain things, to sacrifice things under the right conditions, and the right conditions do not necessarily involve money. If you look at the atrocities in the world, why do they happen? It's a signal to others. You better do what we want. Remember the other guy who stripped the skin inch by inch in front of his family? You're next.
To end this on a bit more positive note, maybe. So what I heard Fred saying was it depends on the context, and that there is maybe not one greatest motivator. Anyway, thanks.
All right, yeah, so amazing debate. Did you guys like that? Nice. Okay, here's the URL. Go and vote. So this is the post-debate vote. We're going to measure the change, and whoever gets the most change in favor of their side wins this debate. So as you guys are doing that, we're just going to close it down. So I just want to remind you about the charities that both sides are debating for. So Fred is debating for the Schulich Scholarship Fund, and so that's really straightforward. Ingo is debating for Pathways to Education, which finds at-risk youth, low-income youth, make sure they finish high school and get them into university. And then so the last thing while you guys are voting, and no applause until the end, I'm just going to go around and do some thanks to the people that put this together. First of all, Will and the NMA, thank you so much for sponsoring us. Applause later, keep voting. Samir, who's doing the video, Vibat for taking the stills, Kunal, Hassan, Shireen for managing the door for us, taking donations, and I hope everybody donated. Frugina, she's the workhorse behind this. She's the one who did all the work, kind of. And, of course, our debaters. So thank you so much for our debaters. And Crum, thank you for moderating as well. Okay? So hopefully everybody has voted. Yeah?
If I could quickly interject, thanks for Steve for sort of organizing this and getting a big push for it. Most importantly, now we have a picture of Fred with nonprofit management behind it.
Yes. So we just want to present a little thank you gift to our participants. Thank you, Ingo. Thank you, Fred. Thank you very much, Crum. All right, so just give us a second. We'll tabulate the votes, and we'll let you know.
Both sides in favor?
How much do they have to pay you for that?
So just a quick note, tonight we managed to raise about $500 for the winning. Give yourself a hand, excellent.
Awesome. And I figured much of what he's saying about publications.
All right, so at the beginning, we started off with a 58% support for Lazar, and opposition was at 42%. And so the ending, okay, so the percentage change was 43% for Lazar, and Holzinger 57.1%. Congratulations, Ingo. Thanks everybody for coming out. $500 goes to Pathways to Education. See you later, guys.